Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, and while we've covered pretty extensively on the channel the leaks regarding the iPhone 11, we really haven't paid too much attention to the successor to the iPhone XR, the iPhone 11R. And like the iPhone XR, the iPhone 11R looks to be filling a very similar role for the 2019 iPhone model lineup. A phone that gets that new iPhone X style of design, but also a phone that is more in line with the prices of the older iPhone series like the iPhone 6, 7, or 8. Now this year, the iPhone XR debuted for $750 for a 64GB model. So I think we can expect the iPhone 11R to come in around the same price point as the iPhone XR, starting at $750. I also don't think the storage options are going to change for the 11R, so a 64GB model for $750, a 128GB model for $800, and then a 256GB model for $900. This phone is going to be a lot like its predecessor in the regards to the iPhone lineup. Again, this isn't a budget iPhone. I really don't like it when people say that the iPhone XR is a budget phone because it comes in at a higher price point than iPhones used to come at. So I always view the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11R as Apple's continuation of just having a normal iPhone lineup, so I still consider them premium devices. And like other premium phones in the market, it's still going to be made of premium materials like aluminum and glass. Now the iPhone XR came in a lot of nice color finishes, and it looks like that's going to carry over to the iPhone 11R, and we don't know if Apple is going to add any colors to that lineup, but I would personally like to see a green color added into the mix. And Apple usually does surprise us with a new phone color when releasing new iPhone models, so maybe Apple will be adding some new color finishes to the 11R. And in fact, if you have a favorite color option you would like to see added to the iPhone 11R's lineup, let me know in the comments below. Now the design, at least on the front of the iPhone XR, is going to be pretty much unchanged. So it's still going to have a 6.1-inch LCD display. Notable leakers like OnLeak say that the resolution will likely remain the same at 1792 by 828. Now last year, the big controversy with the iPhone XR was in fact its resolution, but I think when reviewers actually got their hands on it, they didn't really have a problem with the screen. You couldn't really see the pixels unless maybe you held the phone really close to your face. So I think the resolution will stay the same for the iPhone 11R. I know I personally wasn't bothered by the resolution density in my review. I even compared it to my iPhone XS Max, and I really couldn't notice the pixels at a normal viewing distance. And keeping that pixel density at that current size will also lead to other benefits like the improvement in battery life. Now, while the design of the iPhone 11R is basically going to be unchanged at the front, the back of the device is a different story. As the iPhone 11 is getting 3 lenses on the back of it, the iPhone 11R will be getting a second lens. Based on recent 3D leaks and renders from OnLeaks, it looks like Apple might be going with a similar design to the squared off camera on the iPhone 11. Honestly, I think I'm digging the design of the iPhone 11R even more than the iPhone 11. I don't think the camera bump inherently is going to look bad, and like I've stated in previous videos, even when early leaks and renders of the iPhone X came out, a lot of people were saying the vertical camera placement and the vertical camera in general was really ugly, and now that we've had the iPhone X out, I don't think anyone would say that the vertical camera is ugly. We have to remember that it's really hard to judge a final design based solely on 3D leaks and renders. There aren't a lot of the fit and finish that goes into the final product. But even with all that being said, I don't get the same vibe when I look at the iPhone 11R's camera bump. I think it looks a little more neater, a little more nicer than the 3-camera design of the iPhone 11, and I kind of like that Apple will be keeping a similar design language for both phones. And I think the camera bump might also go better with the different colors that you would find on the iPhone 11R. But more than looks, it's mostly about what will these lenses do. So currently we're dealing with separate rumors of a 12 megapixel or a 14 megapixel sensor. I personally think the iPhone 11R will have a larger image sensor in general. I think that's one of the reasons it's going with that more squared off camera design. As for the 2 camera lenses, I think it will work very similar to the current iPhone XS. So just a normal wide angle lens and then a 2x zoom lens. So while I think the sensor and megapixels might be better in the 11R, the function of that camera system should work identical to the iPhone XS, including the portrait mode. So it will use 2 lenses to the portrait mode as opposed to the iPhone XR's single lens where it is using software to make that portrait mode. Having those two lenses gives you other benefits like a better depth of field and also the ability to do pet and object portrait modes. However, this might be a little disappointing because in my iPhone XR review, I mentioned that I did like the software portrait mode that you could only do on the iPhone XR. I like the angle of the wide angle portrait shots, and I also like that it was using the main camera as opposed to the zoomed in camera, so it allowed you to get in more light at that f1.8 aperture size. And I've personally said that Apple should add the option for a wide angle portrait mode through all of the iPhones. I think it would just be a nice benefit in general, because even though the zoom lens portrait mode does give you a better depth effect, I think that wide angle is a nice option to have for a different point of view, or like I said, if you're in a really low light situation, the portrait mode shots from the iPhone XR are better. Although the rear camera seems to be getting a lot of love, it's also rumored that the front-facing camera for the iPhone XR will also be getting an increase from 7 megapixels to a 12 megapixel sensor. Now, to house the iPhone XR's camera bump, the 11R is going to be 0.7 millimeters thicker. That thickness might also be added due to the fact that the iPhone XR is going to have a slightly increased battery size. Now, the battery life for the iPhone XR is only rumored to be at a 5% increase, while the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Max are rumored to be getting a 20 to 25% battery increase. So although it's only a 5% increase, it might not be that big of an issue for an iPhone XR, considering the XR already had a really good battery life. One of the reasons it is getting a 5% boost though is to accommodate a bilateral wireless charging system. This will work very similar to the Galaxy S10 line of phones, where you can take another phone and place it on the back of the iPhone and then have it charge wirelessly. As I mentioned in previous videos, I don't think that this will be the use case that Apple touts in its conference. I think it will be mainly to charge your Apple Watch and the new AirPods with the wireless charging case. Apple will also be updating the iPhone XR with a new A13 processor, which should allow for 20% more circuitry in the same area of the A12 chip. The A12 chip is already a powerhouse, outscoring some laptops on the market, and especially the A12X that is found on the iPad Pros, which even outscores some of the MacBook Pros. So it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of processing power jump we get from A12 to A13, and I can't even imagine what Apple plans to do with all of that added horsepower. Now, like last year with the upgrade from A11 to A12, we can also expect that Apple will be expanding the AI benefits of the A13 chip. This might include a faster neural engine, which would also make Face ID work faster. Ming-Chi Kuo claimed that Apple will be upgrading Face ID itself by raising the power of the flood illuminator, and this would lower the impact from invisible lighting. I also wonder if the improved Face ID system for this year of iPhones will also include something like the new iPad Pro, so that you can use it in any orientation. So whether that's upright on its side or even upside down, Face ID might potentially work in those orientations on the newer iPhones. We've also heard recent rumors that the iPhone XR and also the iPhone 11 will be getting an ultra wideband support for indoor positioning. This short-range radio technology would allow for positioning for indoor areas like malls, airports, or stadiums. So potentially you could get walking directions in more indoor locations, and this could also pave the way for an augmented reality feature, which I talked previously on this channel for. So this AR feature would allow you to hold up your phone in somewhere like a mall and then get arrow directions to the store that you're looking for. This AR feature isn't concrete, but we've heard a lot of rumors recently that Apple will be expanding its AR efforts with the upcoming iPhones, and that Apple is hard at work with an AR glasses headset, which could be coming out as soon as 2020. And finally, we've also heard that the iPhone XR will probably in all likelihood retain the Lightning port and not make a switch over to USB-C. However, there is some hope if you are looking for a fast charger in the box, with recent reports saying that Apple will be including an 18-watt charger in the box, and that will be a USB-C to Lightning cable, so USB-C on the power brick, and then Lightning into the iPhone. And as I'm sure a lot of you know, the iPhone XR was one of my favorite phones that Apple has ever released, and I'm personally really excited to see all of the new features that Apple will be adding to the iPhone XR, but I think this is a pretty good indication of all the features and the design that Apple will be going with. But enough about what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited for the iPhone XR? What sort of features are you most excited for? What do you think about the iPhone 11R's new design with a squared off camera bump? And are there any features that I didn't cover in this video that you wanted to see in an iPhone 11R and you're disappointed that Apple isn't adding it? As always, if you want to help the channel out in any way, make sure you check out the links in the description. And if you like the video, make sure you give me a like. If you want to see more from my channel, including more coverage on the iPhone 11R, make sure you subscribe. And as always, I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.